Good day. In this video, we will be looking at some basic object-oriented programming concepts in Java. So we're going to look at how we go about creating a class, we're going to look at how we go about creating constructors, parameterized and non-parameterized constructors. We're going to look at the getter methods. We're going to look at creating some other helper methods like a display method. We're going to look at how we create a Tostring method, and there are some others here. We're going to create a field method. The field method here is for a car class. So this class that we're going to be creating is a car class that has data members type here and a mile. And we have a fuel method here that calculates and returns the fuel use, assuming that for each mile travel, 3 liters of fuel is used. And we're going to create a trip method that accepts a parameter rate that determines the rate is the charge per mile for a given trip. So if somebody's running taxi with a car, if you travel 1 mile or 2 miles, whatever the rate is, you multiply it by the amount of miles traveled in order to get the cost for the trip. And then we have insurance method here. The insurance amount is determined based on the miles. So if the mile is between 0 and 1,000, the insurance is 100,000. If the miles is between 1,001 to 10,000, the miles, the insurance is 150,000. If the miles over 10,000, the insurance is 200,000. We'll be creating a main, we'll be creating some objects of the class, and we'll do some testing. All right, so let's just get on with it. We're going to create a new class. The name of this class is going to be car. All right, so here is our class, car. So public class, car, data members are miles. So we have private double miles. We have type, which is string, it's private. String type. And the next data member we have is year, so it's private. Year is going to be int. Year. Then we're going to create our constructors. First one is a non-parameterized one, and remember the constructor is always public, and it doesn't care a return type, so it's public car. And for this, we're just going to set the data members. We're going to say this miles. So talking about the miles here is equal to 0, and this here is equal to 0, and this type, let's give the type a double value like unknown, and let's create a parameterized constructor now. This one is a parameterized. And this one will accept some parameters. Again, it's going to be public. It has the same name as a class, and it has no return type. And the parameters are double miles in here and string type. Good. So now we're just going to set the data members like we did above. So this is miles. So this miles refer to the miles up here, and it will be equal to the parameter, just miles. Even though the spellings are the same, they are different. So this one is this. This miles is the one up here. Right. The same goes for the others. So we're going to say this year equal to year. I'm going to say this type equal to type. And that's it for our constructor. Let's do the setters. All right, so remember the setters. No, the setters are going to be somewhat similar to the parameterized constructor in the sense that it's going to accept a parameter for the particular data member that it's setting. So let's do the set miles first. And of course, the setter doesn't care a return type. So we're going to have public void. So the return type is void. Set miles. And it will accept a parameter for the miles, which is going to be double. And we will just say this, that miles. Same thing for the others. We have public void set here. And it's going to accept parameter for year. So I say this year for year. And the same thing goes for type, public void set type. And the type is string, so it's a string type. So say this type equal to type. And now we're going to do the getters. The getter methods will just return the value that is stored in each parameter. And so the getter method will have a return type of whatever the data type is, whatever the data type of the data member is. So it's going to be public. So for miles, it's going to public double, get miles. And it doesn't take in any parameter. All that you're going to do is just return this, that for the others, public. It's int for year, set here. And we're just going to return this here. And then we have public, get type, takes no parameter, and we're just going to return this type. And then the next thing we're asked to do is create a method display that displays all the information. So we're going to display all of these. We're going to display miles, type, and year. So the display method is just going to print out everything. So it's going to be a void, this public void display. It's not going to return anything, doesn't take in a parameter. All you're going to do is just print out what is in the what is stored. All right, so we can just print them. Let's print miles first. This miles. All right. I'm gonna put a little. I'm gonna put each of them in a new line. So I'm gonna put a blank space and with a slash n in between, so that breaks the line. Plus is that here. Plus another new line. Remember the plus is used here as a concatenator. So this, that type. So it will print each of them below each other. And that's it for the display. So the display just output whatever is stored. And then we have the Tostring method. The Tostring is a very special method. This Tostring method generally return all the data members as a string. So it's going to be public string because it's going to return a string, Tostring. Doesn't take in any parameter. And just return all data members as a concatenated string. So you can have this, that miles, plus one of the space in between. Or if you want to put a new line, it's up to you. Or if you want to put a slash T to get a tab space, that's all up to you. For your display, it's up to you. All right, so I'm just putting a space between. So I have miles, it's this, that miles, plus this, that year plus, I'm going to plus space plus this, that. And that's it for Tostring. Nothing more is needed. All right, so the next method that we are asked for is the method fuel. And the fuel method should return the amount of fuel used by the car based on the miles. So if the amount per mile is 1, then the fuel will be 3 liters. But if the miles is 5, the 5 times 3 is 15 liters. All right, so we will get the information up for miles based on what is here. All right, so all you need to do is to do our method, and it's supposed to return what the cost is. So it's going to be public. So since it's going to return the cost as a number, and the cost may be fractional, we're going to use double. Call it fuel. Doesn't take in any parameter. Now all we're going to do is return the miles. What the miles is, multiply by 3. That's all. So that is fuel. The next method here is create a method trip. So let's do trip that accepts a parameter. The miles, it should then calculate and print the total charge. So this trip one, it didn't say return, it said just a print. So that means the return type is going to be void. So we're going to have public void trip. What is important here is that trip accepts a parameter for rate. And of course, the rate would be a double, so it's double rate. So this is how it goes. This rate is the cost per mile. So if the rate amount is 400, it means it's $400 per mile. So we're gonna just display the cost. So just gonna say system.out. And to make it more obvious, let's do the calculation first. The double cost is equal to miles. So it's the miles multiplied by the rate, which is gonna give it a cost. All right, so we're gonna output total cost is the cost, right? So that is the method trip. All right, then we are asked to create a method insurance that will, let me just read what is here. Create a method insurance that calculates and print the insurance amount based on these. All right, so we're gonna print the insurance based on these. So for that, we're gonna have, again, this insurance method is gonna print, it didn't say to return, so again, it's gonna be, the return type is gonna be void. So we're gonna have public void insurance. It doesn't take in any parameter because the mile is already a data member, so we're gonna just check what the mile is, and based on what the mile is, we'll determine what the insurance is. All right, so I'm gonna create a variable to store the insurance amount. So I'm gonna say double insurance. No, I'm gonna use INS. All right, set it at 0. All right, so if the miles is between 0 and 1,000, so to check for 0 and 1,000, we're gonna say if miles is greater than or equal to 0, and miles less than or equal to 1,000. All right, of course, you could say this miles, same thing, this miles, and this miles. So that this represents between 0 and 1,000, right? So if that's the case, it means that the insurance amount is 100,000. So if that's the case, then we're saying INS is equal to 100,000. 100,000. But if that's not the case, we can say else. If this, let's leave the else in one line and put this below it, so it's clear. So if this dot miles is between 1,000, so it's going to be greater than or equal to 1,001, and this dot miles is less than or equal to that's 10,000. All right. So this represents 1,001 to 10,000. So it's greater than or equal to the lowest and lesser than or equal to the highest. All right. So if that is the case, we're saying that insurance is equal to 150,000. All right. Still have an else. So we're saying if this that miles, it's over 10,000. So following what we have here, so if it's over 10,000, of course greater than sign, then we're saying that the insurance amount is equal to, I hope I'm seeing right, that's 200,000. 200,000, right? So all we're gonna do now, after doing all of that, is to print insurance. All right, so the cost of the insurance is gonna be INS. And that's it. You may want to put a little dollar sign here. Just for format. I mean, quick and easy way to get the dollar sign up here before the figure. All right, so that's the insurance method. All right, the next question states that we should create a main method. So we're gonna create a main method. First, public static void main. And in this main method, we are told to do a few things. We are to, based on I, we are to create two objects of the car. So let's do that. So I'm gonna creating car objects. I'm gonna create one using the non-parameterized constructor and the other one using the parameterized. So first car I'm gonna create is a ladder. I'm not sure how many of you know about ladder. All right, so car ladder equal to new car. All right, so this one is using the non-parameterized constructor. And next one, I'm gonna create car, create a BMW equal to new car. And of course, if I'm using the parameterized constructor, we'll have to pass in the parameters. So in this case, the parameters are miles, year, and time. All right. So I'm gonna just assume a mile. So for example, 100. Year, let's assume 2018. And the type, I'm gonna put a class C. All right, so that's the BMW and the ladder that we have created. So we have created two objects. All right, now we are asked to test the methods that we created earlier. All right, so let me just close the bracket. There's a close bracket that is needed here, down here for the class. So this is the closing bracket for the main. We need one more to close the class. All right, so we need to test the different methods that we would have created. I'll just test a few of them. Let's test the display. Let's look at the display one first. So if we say ladder, that display. All right. If I run this program, all right, so we have an error here. We have a getter, and it's returning type. We omitted the string because it's returning string. All right. See here any other error? All right, no other error. All right, so let's just run the program before we put in the rest of code so you can see what's going on. All right, let me just clear the output screen so I can share it with you. Let's run again. All right, so this is what I got on my output screen. All right, good. All right, so let's modify this. And of course, that is right because the car object it's displaying is a ladder, and the ladder uses the default constructor that sets the miles to 0, the year to 0, and the type to unknown. And let's now display the BMW. So if we say BMW, that display should see coming up, we should see 100 for the miles and 2018 for the year and the class, the type to be C. All right. So let's run this again. All right, so you notice the information actually repeats for the ladder. So we have the unknown and the 0, 0, and next is the information for the BMW. All right, so let's just clear this. All right, so let's test some other methods that we would have created. So we have the insurance, we have the fuel. Let's try the fuel method. Because the fuel method returns a value. So the fuel method returns a value. So to test that one, we're gonna have to put that in an output in this case. So we can, well, there are different options. I could have assigned it to a variable and print the variable, but I'm just gonna put it there in the output statement. So if I say, let's look at the fuel that the BMW use. So I'm gonna say BMW.fuel, and that invokes the fuel method for BMW. So let's just try this again. All right, so the BMW, we traveled, remember it was 100 miles, so the fuel is 300. All right, good. Let's look at the trip method. Let's say there's a trip. Let's look back at the trip method, how it's set up. So the trip method takes in a rate and it calculates the cost based on the miles. So let's do a trip with the BMW. So we say BMW, that trip, and the rate is, let's say, $1,000 per mile. All right. So the fact that we did 100 miles, the cost should be 100,000. So let's see if that's what we get. All right, so there is it, 100,000. Good. Let me just clear this. All right, so there are other methods that we can test. So All right, so the ladder, the mile for the ladder is 0. So let's try the settings. So we can say ladder that set miles, set the miles to 200. Let's set the mile, the year for the ladder to 1990. It's an old car. Let's set the type, ladder, set type, set it to AB. All right. And now we can invoke the display method again on the ladder. So we can say ladder.display. All right. Let me get my output screen. Where is it? Output screen is hiding. Right, so here's it. All right, so there is the ladder. AB. All right. Let's clear and run it again so you can see. All right, so we have that. All right, so let's run this again so you can see what comes up. All right, there you go. Notice this 1990s for the ladder. It's actually displayed in the same line here. That's just because we you just need like a new line. So you need to put a new line so you can see the difference. All right, so that's it. So that's how we test the methods, that's how we create the objects. And if you have any question, feel free to leave a comment and I will respond to your comments as quick as possible. All right, so let's just look back at what we did. So we created a class called car with data members, miles, type, and year. Created 2 constructors, one non-parameterized. Of course, the constructor has the same name as the class, and the non-parameterized one just set the data members to dummy values. So this dot miles refers to this dot year refers to this one, this dot type refers to that. All right, the parameterized constructor accepts parameter for the different data members, miles, years, type, and it sets the data members based on the parameters specified. So this dot miles refers to the miles up here, as I said earlier, and the miles here refers to this one. All right, so we're setting these based on what is passed as parameter. Then we create our setters. The setters accepts a parameter and set the data members to that parameter. All right, and that goes for all of those setters. The getter method, all it does, it returns the data member. So it has the same, it has a return type as based on the data member. So if the data member is double, the return type is going to be double. The data type is int, the return type is going to be int. So that's for the getters. And next we have a display method that just output on the screen the information stored in each data member. We have the Tostring method. The Tostring method just return all the data members as a string. We have the fuel method that calculates and returns the fuel. Here we have a trip method that accepts rate as a parameter, and based on the rate, it calculates the cost for the trip. So the rate is a rate per mile, so it's whatever the mile is times the rate that gives you the cost, and it's just print it out. We have the insurance class method that determines what the insurance amount is based on the miles. If the insurance is between 0 and 1,000, that is if the insurance is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 1,000, that's going to be the insurance amount and so forth. So we check each case and display accordingly. And here in main, we just test the create two objects. So we create two objects of the car class, and we use the different objects to import the different methods to test them. We didn't test the Tostring method, but if we should say, for example, system.out.print, if we should say print, let's print BMW. If we try to print this without a Tostring method, this line would not work. But because there's a Tostring method, what it's gonna do, it's gonna automatically invoke the Tostring method on BMW. So you'll see all the information that we have here. Where is it? Tostring? Here, so we're gonna see miles, the space, followed by a year and so forth being printed on the screen. All right. Let's just run that again. All right, so there's it. So that's from the Tostring method. All right, thank you very much for viewing, and you have a good day. Remember to leave your comment below if you have any queries. Thank you.